Hello and welcome to another edition of our Public Enlightenment Program, NDIC Calling. This week, our focus shall be on the remarkable achievement of NDIC in bank liquidation, risk and physical asset realization and payment of liquidation dividends. But first, a short report. One important statutory mandate of NDIC is to ensure that the failing and failed insured institutions are resolved in a timely and efficient manner. This presupposes the existence of legal powers that support early intervention and prompt corrective action. The ability to close troubled banks promptly and legal provisions for prompt and orderly liquidation of assets and resolution of creditors' claims is part of the things that NDIC is empowered to provide. NDIC is empowered to provide financial and technical assistance to failing or failed or distressed banks in the interest of depositors.
NDIC, they protect your money for banco. NDIC, they insure your money for banco. NDIC, they for you. NDIC, they for you. Oh my people, una dey here. No more worry, no need to be scared. If you get the money for bank, we get the CBN license, then you are covered. No need to register, oh, you no need to pay money. Automatically deposit insurance, it dey free. No go put money for Wonder Bank, yo. We go promise and fail you. We dey for you.
NDIC, protecting your bank deposit. You're welcome back. On our special interview segment, we shall be talking to two critical people. First is Executive Director of Corporate Services, Mrs. Emily Chidinma Osuji, and the Director of Assets Management Department, Mr. Kehinde Olabanji. First, our interview with Executive Director of Corporate Services, Mrs. Chidinma Emily Osuji. I welcome you to this program this week, and I'm very delighted to have with us the Executive Director of Corporate Services of NDIC. I'd like to welcome here Mrs. Emily Chidinma Osuji. I welcome you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Let us kick off with explaining exactly what does liquidation mean in relation to the mandate of NDIC.
Our liquidation is when central bank deems a bank not fit anymore to operate. They withdraw the license given to that bank. That is done by CBN and then appoint NDIC as a liquidator. NDIC is now mandated to move in and close and close that bank, and the closure has to be efficient and effective. And what we mean by that is that it doesn't cause disruption in the financial system. So NDIC will now go into that bank with the help of some retained staff there, be able to collect information, because we need to know who owns what and what amount. So those information are put together and we compile our liquidation deposit register, what we call deposit register. And we have some staff that will also be working in the legal aspect, trying to know, get information on the legal aspect of the bank. We have some of our NDIC staff who also be concentrating on the physical assets. What are the properties that the bank, which properties, where they are located, and all that. So we have the entire bank covered, and we now get our information. That is the process of liquidation. And it is when we get this done, then we'll start utilizing the deposit register to pay, because that forms a comprehensive list of the depositors of that bank and how much they have. And then the risk assets, we now start writing the debtors of the bank to say NDIC is now liquidating this bank from the record of the bank, we understand that you are owing the bank this amount. So we expect you to get in touch with us on how you're going to pay, because we need that money to pay the depositors, liquidation dividend. So that process commences immediately. So the process of getting together the risk assets and of course collating the fiscal assets and selling them. Recently, I'm sure you saw the adverts in the newspapers. We had to advertise because there's a process you have to go through to get the public informed. So we informed the public, and we gave time. People bidded openly, and those that won the bidding were expected to pay. So when this money is coming, then you declare dividend. But the insured sum is paid from the fund NDIC already warehoused, which is made up of the premiums paid by the banks. Yes. So liquidation dividend is actually amounts, pulled together when you sell their properties, their equipment, and also recover from debtors. But the insured sum is actually the fund that NDIC is managing on behalf of these depositors.
I want to deal a bit more on this liquidation thing in terms of, are there stages to it in terms of assets, investment, and physical things? Are there stages to it?
Actually, if a bank has all the money that we need in terms of realization of the fiscal assets and risk assets, and the money will be enough for liquidation dividend, you just declare once. But the liquidation dividend is declared in stages because the banks don't really at a point in time have every 100% of the amount that you can declare. But over the years, you realize these funds either from fiscal assets or from risk asset, then you declare dividend. So you can declare first dividend, second dividend, till you declare 100% dividend. In our portfolio, we have some banks that have declared 100% dividend, liquidation dividend, and have even gone ahead to pay creditors and shareholders. We have some banks, and this is how our act stipulates it. Depositors, those who put their money innocently in these banks, must be paid, 100%. And then you can talk about creditors are those who may have rendered services to that bank at any point in time, and then you pay them. And then you go to shareholders if you still have funds. There are some old banks that we've paid everything and paid even the shareholders. Banks like Pan-African and banks like Alpha, we've paid up to shareholders.
In essence, how does liquidation help you in trying to, let me use a Nigerian word, settle a few claimants, such as depositors, shareholders? You have explained that, but I want that expanded a little bit more, so that especially shareholders, I think they think they are holding the short side of the stick in all of this transaction.
Well, if a bank is closed, it's assumed that a lot of things may have gone wrong, but depositors are actually the priority. So depositors are given priority. Yes, you are a shareholder, you own the bank, you may have, of course, you put your money in the bank, but the deposit insurance scheme is actually concerned with depositors, who innocently chose the bank and put their resources or their savings in that bank. So when that bank is not run well, when that bank is closed eventually, or the license withdrawn by CBN, whichever terms you want to use, it is those depositors that are the target of NDIC, and that is in line with the act. The depositors have to have their money paid 100% before even the creditors, and then the shareholders. Well, holding the short side of the stick, well, I can agree with you to an extent. But if you want to look at it justifiably, morally, a bank advertises that these are services and you are free to come and put your money, and probably you take your salary from bank A and you go to bank B and you put your savings down. And when that bank closes, it is expected that that depositor that walked in to put his or her money there ought to be paid first. And in any case, the insurance is on the deposits, not on the shareholders.
I'll go back to Heritage Bank. In terms of depositor confidence in what NDIC is doing, to what extent do you think what you did with depositors' money promptly is affecting the confidence they repose in NDIC now?
I think to a large extent, it did. Going by the commendations and the feedback we got that period, most times depositors will call in and say, we didn't know this could happen in Nigeria, that I'm sitting back and I just got my deposit. And if you remember, some of them were actually going to collect their money for some time and couldn't get. Some got half and half, not actually all they wanted and all that. So, and here NDIC took over after the license was withdrawn, and in 3 days they got their monies. Some depositors did not even know. Some of them were still asking. They will call in, and when we check our record, we will find out that they have been paid. And then we'll tell them, oh, your account this have that amount. And they'll call back to thank us, especially those that don't have alerts in their account and didn't know that they've been paid. So we keep getting such, commendations from them. Oh, we didn't know we've even been paid, and so there were. I believe that gave so much confidence in the financial sector, because before we take up to 90 days, get your form filled, get some you have to get it certified, and all that. But this time around with BVN, we were able to say, yes, this account is yours, and verified by us even without your coming forward, and then the money is paid into your account. So it gave so much confidence that why not? I can go to bed and sleep because NDIC is there to ensure my deposit.
I'm using confidence as my last question. What level of confidence should depositors have in the banking system now? Any liquidation in sight?
No liquidation in sight. No liquidation in sight. The banks are strong. The banking financial sector is doing very well to a very large extent. So I encourage people to go about their banking businesses in all the banks that they have account, at least for now. And I believe it's just going to be, a continuous thing, because CBN is working and the banks are also working. NDIC, all those that are in charge of the financial sector are making sure that at this time we have a very resilient financial sector.
You're welcome back. To corroborate some of the issues raised by the Executive Director of Corporate Services, we shall be speaking with the Director of Asset Management Department, Mr. Kehinde Olabanji. Hello and welcome. This is NDIC Calling. This week our focus will be on NDIC's activities in the areas of liquidation, asset realization, and of course how do they begin to manage payment of liquidation dividends. And this week we have a man who understands the role of NDIC in the area of asset management. I'd like to welcome here Mr. Kehinde Olabanji, Director of Asset Management Department of NDIC. I welcome you.
Thank you very much.
So let's kick it off. A lot of people who might not understand the way NDIC works will be wondering, does NDIC do asset management? What exactly is asset management in the work of NDIC?
Thank you very much. Asset management in deposit insurance entails realizing the assets of the bank in an efficient manner in order to maximize what we are paying out to depositors. And what do I mean? I'll break it down. Assets of the bank compose of the loan and advances that the bank has prior to its closure. Banks also have investment, they have physical assets. But chunk of these assets, most of them, the largest part of it consists of the loan and advances. You know, banks are in the business of intermediation, which means that they take from the surplus sector and give to the deficit sector. By so doing, they create what we call loan and advances. Most of these banks fail because they are unable to collect those loans which they have given out. And so when banks begin to have this problem, most of them have what we call liquidity issue, meaning that they are not able to honor their obligation to their customers. People that kept money in the bank, depositors like you and I, you get to the bank, you can't get your money back. The bank begin to have problem. And if it continues this way, the bank is going to definitely come to a halt. That means the bank already is in crisis. When this issue happened, NDIC, being deposit insurance, and by our mandate, we guarantee payment to depositors. We have told depositors that, okay, in the case of imminent suspension of payment, we are going to pay back. So all these are our mandate. Because of this, we look at the assets and liability of the bank. NDIC, because we guarantee payment, we pay insured sum. Whether or not the bank have assets, we are going to pay the insured sum. But payment of liquidation dividend, subsequently, after the insured sum, dependent on what we realize from the assets of the bank. And like I told you, the assets of the banks are mainly the risk asset, which is the loan and advances, the investment, and then the physical assets, which are the buildings you can see. So it depends on how much we generate from this after the disposal of these assets that will determine what we are going to pay to depositors. For instance, if a bank total asset is 1 million after closure, if what we realize at the end of the day is 300,000, 300,000 is what we are going to share to depositors on pro rata, you understand? Ensure that we pay the highest possible that they can have. We are supposed to realize this asset in ensuring that these assets are realized at a minimum cost, so that what we are going to pay to them at the end of the day will be very high.
What are the challenges, especially as it affects debt recovery, prosecution of debtors?
Okay, I was going to explain that. You see, realizing these assets comes with a lot of challenges. And especially when it comes to debt recovery, you know, our society here, people don't want to pay back what they are owing. And it has been a problem. Even prior to the closing of the bank will have made so much effort to recover this loan. By the time the bank failed, it is now come to NDIC, being an official liquidator of the bank, to take over this loan. So, and the same problem that the bank has, we go through the same thing, except that we have a act to leverage on. The NDIC Act 2023 gives NDIC so much power to be able to tackle this issue of debt recovery. Like I said before, it's not only that debt recovery, even with the physical assets, we still have challenges because some of those assets of the bank, let me give you an example of this Heritage Bank. We are unable to identify some of the assets because of the legacy. You know, a lot of banks came together to form the Heritage Bank. So we are still searching for some of these assets, be able to identify them. And some of the assets that we identify, the documents are not in the bank's name. That means that we are supposed to, when I say it's not in the bank name, we are in the legacy bank's name. For instance, instead of Heritage Bank, you are saying ACB. These are banks that came together to form Heritage Bank.
So when you have a situation like that, what do you do?
No, it's also belongs to Heritage Bank, because by the virtue of it being part of the Heritage Bank, the asset is also owned by Heritage Bank. So what our legal department will do is go across the country, search for all those properties. We have searched almost all of them. Our legal department has searched for all of them all across the country, and we have been able to identify some of them. But the problem is still that we still have some of them that have title document issue. So what the legal department is doing is to ensure that they get title for some of them before we can dispose them. It's a process, but we are going through it one by one. Also, the investment of the bank, we have to identify some of them so that we can dispose them, so that we can pay the depositor quickly.
Can you tell us a few of the landmark achievements you've made in the area of asset realization?
NDIC has been making enough effort to ensure that the assets of the bank all across the country are realized. But this issue of the Heritage Bank, I would say, is unprecedented. Because the way NDIC responded to the closure of Heritage Bank, I've witnessed so many closure and liquidation. I see that it was very prompt. Within 7 days, we paid depositors. In fact, I can say that within 3 days, we have already compiled the list of the depositors we're going to pay. And with 7 days, we paid. And so, for the assets of the bank, we've disposed some of them. We're expecting that soon we're going to pay the first liquidation dividend. And I believe this will be able to ease the suffering of the depositors or their hardship. This will, in a way, ease their suffering. NDIC is trying as much as possible to put smile on their faces. So I believe that very soon, every one of them will be saying thank you, NDIC.
Well, one of the great things about NDIC is the fact that it recognizes that it has stakeholders.
Yes.
And so for you, especially in the area of asset realization, I know you have stakeholders, the judiciary, external solicitors, and the rest of it. And what's the collaboration like?
Okay, good. Like I told you, we have so many challenges realizing some of these assets, especially debt recovery. People don't want to pay, but we realize that we need what we call strategic collaboration. The stakeholder here that I mentioned will be Central Bank of Nigeria. The judiciary is strategic to us. For instance, let me tell you that with Central Bank, we are partnered with Central Bank to ensure that some of these debtors, we put a lien on their account. We have what we call GSI, Global Standing Instruction, to ensure that if you're having money in another bank, we can take that money if you are owing bank in liquidation. Yes. So if you are a debtor of Heritage Bank, for instance, and we know you have money in another bank, we have partnered with Central Bank to ensure that some of them, they block the account, and the money there possibly transferred to us. So many of those things we are partnered with Central Bank. Also with the judiciary. Because a lot of cases, when debtors go to court, they go with the intention of not paying at all. So they find a way to delay the court process. So management is partnered with the judiciary to ensure that there is speedy disposition of justice on the court when we bring cases to the court. So the area of manipulating the court to ensure that you continue not to pay is almost over.
About the NDIC, I know they secure depositors' funds when depositors deposit money into the commercial banks. The NDIC serves as an insurance of the money deposited into the commercial banks. So in case of bankruptcy, maybe the bank went bankrupt, the NDIC will ensure that the depositors' funds are returned to various depositors. I think they have a category up to 5 million or so, depending on the funds that's been deposited.
The NDIC, Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation, is an agency that protects depositors' funds and basically insures our funds in case banks fail from commercial banks and other financial institutions.
NDIC is an agency that is in charge of banks, that insures the banks in general. whether commercial banks or maybe online banks. So NDIC, if you look at OP, for example, you will see NDIC in some part of their app.
See, leave me. I beg, no look anywhere now. You know the game. No, stop. Why not just disgrace ourselves outside like this now?
The only money wey remain for house, na this man carry go give Wonder Bank. With hope say dem go double im money for am. Now see my pikin, no food. See this one. Hungry wan kill me and my children. I dey carry them go my papa house.
Why you do like this now, my brother? They promise me say they go double the money. When you for carry the money go put inside bank. Let I tell you, Nigeria Deposit Insurance Corporation (NDIC) they protect your money in all licensed bank. You no need to register. You no need to pay. Every bank where they registered under Central Bank of Nigeria.
Now promise me and our children say from today na banks where they registered with NDIC now you go to put our money.
Yes. All this Wonder Bank, I no go ever go back to them again.
NDIC, protecting your bank deposits.
That will be our show this week. It's been wonderful having you with us this week. Until next week, same time, same station. Have a wonderful evening.